The Ladbrokes Social Club is open once again, and we have got a lot of social media reaction to sift through after a very significant weekend in the Ladbrokes Premiership. We're also going to talk cum dog as well. Not all the time in your broadcasting career you can say that. Seriously. Stephen Craigan's in the club. Hey. Michael Stewart alongside him. Did see you borrowed my jumper this week, Michael. And Daniel Caw's here as well. Should we start off with a message we received last week?
Why not? I like to keep a close eye on social media, you know that, guys. And I'd just like to say a big thanks to Sam Hamad, who got in touch to say Daniel Caw will be the first in line to play a young-ish David Brent if there's ever a need for one. How's his Berkshire accent?
How is it?
It's not amazing, to be honest, but I should say the thing that really annoyed me about that was young-ish. You couldn't even just say young, stuck in young-ish.
Listen, if there's money in the role, I'd take it.
Listen, I'm up for it. If anyone out there, get in touch. But thanks for that, Sam. That was a nice wee morale boost for last week. That was good.
Did you Google search your name?
It's under the YouTube comments.
In fairness, it's in the comments.
Believe me, enough of my friends sent me it. It was always going to appear.
You can't miss it, Michael.
Thanks, Sam.
Let's get to the football then. As I've already said, so much social media reaction, particularly after Rangers' defeat at Tynecastle. What are the Rangers fans saying? Stephen Gerrard picked out a few players. He said I think up to 8 underperformed on the day, and I think a lot of the names of those players have come up on social media, haven't they? As
you can imagine, a really strong reaction on social media from yesterday's game at Tynecastle. Alan here on Twitter, I think, actually kind of touches on a lot of the bases that are covered. While I'm disappointed, I don't think the league is over. Polster, Patterson before Flanagan for me. Our midfield three has been poor in all 4 games since the break. I don't think Defoe can play up front in his own, but I'm not the manager. We lacked aggression and didn't match hearts.
Good that he's clarified that he's not the manager there, Alan. I thought that was a nice touch. Let's start off then, shall we, on the issue of right back, which is mentioned there. Did you think Nathan Patterson would start that game?
The hard thing is that he was being judged against the Stranraer side, who were so deep and so compact. He didn't have really any defensive duties to do. So Stephen Gerrard probably has watched him and knows more about him defensively. When you go to Tynecastle and Hearts are going to be in your face, they're going to be putting you under pressure, going to be hitting diagonal balls, getting down the side. He must have thought himself it was too much for him. And I think you have to take his word for it, because he's the manager, he's watched him often enough, and he's got to make the big call.
So the next game then, who starts at right back? Midweek?
Well, it's a big call. Obviously, being back at Ibrox, it gives a different dynamic to it. But, Craigs is right. Going away to Tynecastle is a difficult ground for, any youngster to be thrown in. Look, it's a lot of hindsight, but before the game, I think there wouldn't be too many folk that would have disagreed. This is a lot of, after the event, they've lost the game, a lot of criticism. Perhaps you could, say Polster instead, but Patterson, I just think, you've got to be careful with youngsters. You don't throw them in too soon, especially at places where they could come up against
a real difficult playing in the game.
Yeah, I know, but you're talking about, as Craig said, an area of the park where you would expect Hearts to get right at Rangers. So I don't think it was a ridiculous call to put in an experienced player like Flanagan. The other areas of the park, perhaps. It's the strongest midfield three though.
Yeah.
But they have looked a little bit flat. That's a fair comment. But what do you do? Because you're talking about the Stranraer game. A lot of guys that came in that game didn't cover themselves in glory. They didn't put themselves forward as serious contenders. Perhaps you could have started with Arfield, maybe. But again, these are all things that you're looking after the event.
What else they say? The fans?
The right back was a big talking point, Darrell, but obviously Alfredo Morelos missed the game, and Jermaine Defoe was trending at one point on Twitter nationwide throughout Scotland. Andy here on Twitter, Jermaine Defoe has never been able to play as a lone striker, and at 37 never will now, so why does Gerrard think it's going to work? He needs to play with a partner. Same outcome after the break last season. Hang your heads and shame Rangers. Utter disgrace and points lost again. Just very quickly, BMC Rangers Rants, a big Rangers account on Twitter. Honestly, the grumbling about Defoe is quite something. We are punting the ball in the air and getting nowhere near a middle to front. He's the least of our worries. Our invisible midfield and wide players void of quality these last few games are more of a worry.
He was celebrated for signing a new deal just a couple of days prior.
Well, I think
he missed chances in the game.
He did, and it's the first time in his Rangers career when he's had opportunities like that, you think he looked his age of 37, when he lacked that little yard, when he was in behind and you thought, a Jermaine Defoe of 28, 29, 30, goal. Yeah. You'd have just thought goal immediately. I think once he had a heavy touch, you just took it beyond him, but he didn't have that little turn of pace. And there were certain situations that Rangers could have capitalised a little bit more on. So
people agree with some of the fans though, they didn't play to his strengths.
People get emotional. People get emotional after a game because Rangers were in the driving seat. They thought that a game in hand, or the 2 games in hand prior to yesterday, if they win them both, they go top. So all this coming round, losing a game that they didn't expect to lose against the team who are bottom of the league, irrespective of what Hearts are, they're bottom of the league, and they're bottom of the league for a reason, because they haven't been good enough this season. People get emotional.
I was just going to say, you know, it's not excuses, but you've got to take into consideration the park's not great at the moment at Tynecastle. I remember Celtic being at Tynecastle, Edward running through on goals, not being able to get the ball under control on a number of occasions, and not scoring.
Won the game, that's the difference.
Well, that's the point. You know, so it's these things that, you know, change the slant in terms of how people view it. I think it's another fair comment with regards to there were other issues in regards to, you know, Rangers team that were of a bit more of a concern than just isolating Jermaine Defoe.
I know you've not got tweets for all the different players, but I think Ojo was trending for a while as well.
Ojo was trending at one point. Morelos wasn't even playing, and he was trending at one point. There was a lot of players trending that not for the right reason, I think, in social media, which you don't want to stick about to players like Ojo. We were saying before we come on air, I looked at someone like Jamie Murphy going out on loan. You look at Ojo, Barker. I don't know, I feel like Rangers fans maybe would have looked at Murphy and maybe thought he'd worth more of a chance in games like yesterday.
I think that's a fair comment, isn't it?
I think Stephen Gerrard had made his mind up probably last summer that Jamie Murphy wasn't going to be part of his plans. You know, he didn't really get any opportunities. At no stage did you think he was going to bring him on or involve in the matchday squad. So he made his mind up and decided he was going to go with Jordan Jones and Brandon Barker. That was 2 players he had brought in.
And what I was going to say was the big, you know, issue here that, you know, I think a fair few of the Rangers fans are not recognising is Hearts played well. You know,
we'll come to that, don't worry.
No, but I'm saying from the Rangers fans' perspective,
absolutely right.
You know, football involves 2 teams. Hearts have not played well enough this season.
You weren't expecting the Rangers fans to give them credit, were you? No, on social media, shocker.
No credit.
That's not a nice place, Michael.
No, not credit, but recognise that, look, going to Tynecastle is not easy. And you've got to understand that the home side actually performed for once.
They did.
So rather than
Rangers have
lambasting,
dropped 5 points there now already.
Yeah, rather than lambasting all their own players all the time, recognise that the home side actually performed to a level.
It's a big ask.
But I also think, you know, when you look at it, Celtic since the break, when they've lost Christie, they've lost James Forrest, Edward didn't start on Saturday. They've found a way to win even when their best players aren't. Rangers missed Tavernier, huge miss. You can talk about all the right backs if you want. He's a huge dynamic for Rangers, and Morelos missing their 2 best players for me, and they couldn't find a way to
You
win.
get more tweets on this,
Just very quickly, just to maybe to round off on Rangers. Chris here, a lot of Rangers fans on social media talking about maybe incomings before the end of the transfer window. How much do Rangers miss Morelos? We're in desperate need of another striker. Gerrard, Wilson and Cole must see it.
We actually mentioned on this show after the game at Celtic Park when Rangers won, a lot of euphoria in the fans. There wasn't too many angry with Morelos for being sent off, but it's coming back to cost them now.
Well, it certainly is. You know, at the time it was all about winning the game. There was a 3-week break. Everybody would relax and come back and play. But
it was a ridiculous second yellow card
at
that point in the game when he possibly could have scored, as Ali McCoy said.
His yellow card was
No, well, it was. I mean, it was stupid. But, you know, the thing is, Rangers can get away, is that the right terminology? They can manage their season with the strikers they've got if they can choose the games that they're playing.
Yes.
Because Defoe is more than capable. The problem is, with Morelos getting sent off, it's against your will. You can't decide what game it is that he's missing. And going to Tynecastle without Morelos was a big one. That's a big miss. But if you look at the course of the season and you say, right, well, we can rest Morelos here, Jermaine can play these games, that's not
ideal.
a problem. Yeah. But it's the sending off that is killed
Which is
them.
where Celtic are at the minute. With Edward on Saturday, for example. You can leave him off for 60 odd minutes, bring him on, and he can bring the game to life, and he can win the game in 2 or 3 minutes.
And they've signed a striker, so they have
signed
options.
Another striker, so they have options to do.
Let's go on to Hearts. You want to give them praise. Let me tell you, the Hearts fans have been delighted. No wonder.
Hearts fans
finally happened for them.
Buzzing. Finally, something to shout about on social media. No one saw that coming from troubled bottom club Hearts. Manager Stendhal, except all the Hearts fans who've seen the week-on-week progress. Gorgie rules. And this one, who Liam Boyce MVP, just goes to show how ingrained Levine ball was in me. I wanted to see that game out for a point. Stendhal ended the game with 3 strikers on the pitch.
He deserves praise for being positive, doesn't he?
If you looked at his bench before the game, there was no defenders on the bench. I think, obviously, given the fact that there's some injuries there as well, but the way that he put, the substitutions on, the way that he made those tactical decisions, that would not have happened before. There is absolutely no danger.
And Maroon Tinted Specs here, which is a big heart set account on Twitter, summed it up quite nicely. Delighted for Liam Boyce getting a win on his debut, but it's the equaliser that gives me most cause for optimism. Halkett winning it back in the final third, Boyce pouncing on a loose ball, and his composure to cut it back for an easy to finish. Stendhal's style in motion.
That's what they want to see.
Absolutely. Listen, Michael's probably watched more of Hearts than probably all of us, but I can't remember a reaction like this after a game. I can't remember such positivity from a performance. From the stands, we're all one, and that's how Tynecastle used to be. See, when you used to go there as an away player, it was intimidating. The fans were on top, and the team responded to the fans, and the fans responded to the team, and it was a difficult venue to go to. Over the past 12, 18 months, it's been too easy. Yeah. It's been too enjoyable for away sides. Motherwell's went and won, Ross County's picked up points, Hamilton's picked up points. That was never back in the day when Hearts were really on it. So that was a performance of a few years ago for me, but it's a starting point. And they now have to back it up. They go to St Johnstone, I think, on Saturday, which is a huge game for them. They have to back it up. But the omens are certainly good for them.
And Liam Boyce is a player I know for years you've liked.
Yeah.
He's a great signing for them. I think there was competition
and
to get him.
Well, he looked a complete centre forward yesterday. He brought the ball in. He brought others into the game. He was nudging defenders out of the way. He was winning flicks. His composure set things up. So I thought he was terrific.
RMC here. It's on the wind-up.
RMC enjoying himself.
He's got a bit to do, hasn't he?
Morelos is just a poor man's Liam Boyce. He was good yesterday, to be fair.
But I think he'll be as important to Hearts as what Morelos is to Rangers.
Yeah, well, he keeps them up for a start.
Hearts have been desperate, absolutely desperate for somebody that is a proper goal scorer for years. They've not had a 20-goal league goal scorer since John Robertson.
Wow.
I mean, that is that's an eternity.
Yeah. Staggering, really, when you think.
Kyle Lafferty came closest with 19 league goals.
Yeah.
They've not had anybody that's got to 20. Now, Liam Boyce is the type of guy that you could expect.
Yeah.
I think he scored, was it 24 league goals in his last season at Ross County? Yeah. Or, basically, it was over 20 goals at Ross County. Yeah. Now, you'd expect somebody of that calibre to be able to go in at Hearts and give that a serious, go at getting those 20 goals.
Especially if more good players are going to arrive as well around him.
You would expect that. Aye.
What else are they saying, Daniel?
So Robbo here, a massive result for us today. Sibic and Boyce look solid, I think he means hungry, and deserves from the get-go. Hopefully a turning point in what's been a miserable season so far. Onwards and upwards for Herr Stendel.
And there's more as well. I know Toby
No,
Sibic.
I actually think he meant hunger, because if you
he did. As I was reading that, I thought, no, I've been good on Michael to pick up. That's good. Thanks, Michael. Cheers, Michael.
They look solid, and there was hunger and desire from the get-go.
Here's the
reading's never been my strong point.
Do you want to read this one as well? Bye, Toby Sibic.
This is by Toby Sibic. So Toby obviously tweeted out, amazing feeling making my debut for Hearts today, and to top it off, 3 points. The fans were incredible all game. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And he was a man. He was trending on point nationwide on Twitter as well, Darrell. Gino Sibic has looked a player for Hearts today, strong in every tackle, all over the midfield.
He's on 20.
Yeah.
20 years of age is phenomenal for such a composed performance. Yeah. And the pitch was excellent.
I think Calvin Young here sums it up. Tell you what, all the talk's been about Boyce, but Toby Sibic.
Like what you see.
Aye, I mean, he looked exactly what Hearts have needed. Now, it's Peter Haring has been missing for Hearts, and it's been a desperate, void in the middle of the park when he's been out. Toby Sibic coming in, and the chat was obviously he's like a central defender, but he could play in that midfield. He looked more than comfortable. He didn't look like a centre half going and playing in midfield. He looks as if that could be a position that he could play comfortably because he had the physique, he was athletic, putting tackles in, but when he was in possession of the ball as well, he was comfortable. So it's when you look at what Hearts have had in there in the last wee while, I think that's where you get the optimism from the supporter, because it's been so dire. When you start to see a few of the additions coming in and making an impact, then you can start to see the progress that could be made.
Now, I know Rangers had some chances in the game, but the Hearts' defence also improved, I think, at times as the match went on. The central defenders, the partnership between Halkett and Suter.
Yep.
A lot of messages about that.
A lot of praise on social media. We talked, obviously, Darren, on the last show about Christoph Berra and about the fallout from that on social media. So there's been quite a big reaction. James here, Suter has improved significantly in the air and has taken on more leadership since his return. And Halkett was also superb again today. Surely they must, given continued good form, come into consideration as a Scotland partnership. And that's a theme on social media.
Brilliant what one game.
There's Michael.
There's a lot of them. There's plenty more.
There's more.
Yeah, Paul Cleland as well. After that performance, hard to argue against John Suter and Dave Halkett. As the Scotland centre-back paying for the playoff, good to see them playing together, and hopefully they stay fit, different class.
Look, there's a lot of potential in that pairing when you watch on, but I think maybe that's getting slightly ahead of ourselves. It also tells you how bad we are defensively at times.
I think Craig Halkett just needs to, keep his performance level up for Hearts. He's been a little bit inconsistent, and probably due to not having an established partner. I think him and Christoph Berra in and out and round about. But John Suter, certainly for me, I think one of the tweets there was about his leadership and even his physicality.
Yeah.
Now, John is a younger centre half. other teams used to play the most aggressive centre forward against them. They thought he could be bullied a little bit in football terms. And I think he now accepts the challenge. He's quite happy to go shoulder to shoulder and fight with people and scrap with people. And that just comes through age and through maturity. So he's definitely getting better.
Be like a new signing.
Yeah, oh no, there's no doubt about it. I'm just laughing because I'm thinking, there were so many Hearts fans that were slating Craig Halkett just before the winter break about he was out of shape, he wasn't looking good, and I think if you were able to, as difficult it is for supporters to look at things objectively, if you looked at the Hearts squad, it wasn't as bad as what was being spoken about. The core was there. They definitely needed some fresh faces and some new blood in there to reinvigorate it. But there was definitely a core there that you could be working with. The centre half pairing, good. But one word of caution is the style that's being played is risk and reward of the highest level.
Can you leave you exposed?
Well, yeah, and that's why on times Rangers are getting in behind. You're not always going to get away with it. And they did yesterday. They didn't concede. Sorry, they didn't. Well, it was 2-1. But on those occasions where they were charging for, they didn't get any. Didn't concede any goals when they were playing like that. But it could happen on occasion. So they've got to just recognise that.
On it.
Yeah. When you get Craig Halkett up there winning the ball and you get your goal for Stephen Naismith of it, equally there might be the repercussions at the other end.
Yeah, good point. On to Celtic.
I'm frightened to read it now. Michael over my shoulder. He's not magnifying glass. But
Be on your game.
He's killed you. He's killed you. It was all about one man, wasn't it?
Of course, and I think this tweet kind of sets the ball rolling nicely. Celtic Bible, a big account. Odsonne Edouard is the most talented striker we've had since Henrik Larsson. Big call, but to be fair,
Dembele.
I think it's a good shout. I think it's a bold shout, but a good one, Darrell.
Dembele's done all right since he left.
And as you can imagine, there was a lot of people talking about Edouard. Mark here, today's match is proof we have to start Edouard if fit. We can't believe in the best striker in the league on the bench. And this one from Ryan. Odsonne Edouard is the best player in the world. I don't do ifs, buts and maybes. I do absolutes.
Yeah. Celtic weren't great in the day, actually, were they?
Yeah, well,
but in the second half, been able to bring on a player like that.
Well, that's the difference, and that's why you have that squad. That's why you bring centre forwards in Klimala, and Lee Griffiths will have taken a huge confidence boost as being the number one striker starting at the weekend. Of course, he didn't score, and at times probably didn't play as well as what he'd like to have done. But the fact that you can bring Edouard on, there's a busy period coming up. They've got Europa League, they've got Scottish Cup, they've got league games midweek playing all the way through. So Neil Lennon can't just keep flogging the same people. That's why he strengthened the squad, so we could give guys like Edouard a break, James Forrest a break when the chance comes along. So there's the reward for it. You bring on your best player and he scores your 2 goals.
The comment about, if Edouard's fit, you've got to play him. Yeah. Not at all, because you've got to recognise, you've got to, as Craig says, you've got to give other players some game time to get them up to speed. Yeah. And you can't continue to flog them. Edouard and, there's probably a core of that Celtic team I've played the equivalent of a full league campaign already.
He partly did a toe injury, I think Neil Lennon said. But you're right, because they play every midweek now, Celtic, so they're going to have to balance their books in that way.
And that to me doesn't show that you have to play them, because they were still 1-0 up. They won the game. And Lee Griffiths wasn't terrible. The whole team was a bit flat.
And Ross County were good.
They were very good. But what it does show is the importance of Edouard.
Yeah, we've got a few tweets as well, I think, from Celtic fans who are reflecting on the first half in particular.
Some Celtic fans on social media are kind of concerned about the first half. This one, Charlie, shocking first half, improved second half, but we really need to sharpen up and get our act together quick. A better side easily puts 2 or 3 past us the first half. This one from Aidan, Celtic again flat, doesn't fit... Celtic again flat, result doesn't fit the performance. Eddie changes the game, defence needed sorted out ASAP. But I think this one from James, pressure's on here, sums it up nicely. Hard earned 3 today, Celtic. Always a good sign when you can win 3-0 on a very average performance.
Right, no more going out the night before the show. Okay, that's the end of it. And you certainly don't want that thing on your phone that tracks where you go.
I know.
Now you know about that as well. Get that deleted right off it. Anyway, I think that sums it up quite nicely. The Celtic fans delighted, 3 points in the end. Of course, the weekend just got better and better for them, but they'll want a better start from their team midweek.
Yeah, again, though, I think you've got to give consideration to the fact that when you look at the back four that was in play for Celtic, that's not the be-all and end-all. You've got to have a little bit of caution in regards to should they be doing things better? Yes. But when you look at the fact that it was Bauer, Julien, Shimunovic and Johnny Hayes, it's not a typical back four. And Ross County, credit them, they exploited that. They got in behind, they had a clear game plan and they executed it pretty well up until the point where you're wanting one of them to put in the back of the net.
You rightly said earlier on, Celtic winning without key players. That's the difference right now. Should we move on to the St Mirren Aberdeen game? Something else that was trending on Twitter yesterday. Not a nice subject for Derek McInnes.
We've talked a lot about Derek McInnes and Aberdeen on this show in relation to social media, Darrell. Yesterday, maybe the strongest reaction I've seen. McInnes out, as you can see, their hashtag was trending nationwide.
For hours.
Not just in Scotland, but I think, UK-wide at one point as well. Mac here, McInnes out, and this obviously includes Dave Cormack as well. If nothing is done, the fans will be staying away in their droves. You need to do something, Dave. He should be getting more of his group of players. Kevin here, after today, I doubt I'm going to take the time to watch the Dons again this season. That's to be one of the most dreadful games of football I've seen in quite some time. I really don't think I can put myself through that again. One shot on target. Just very quickly, one more, Darrell. Craig here.
You missed it a wee bit.
I know, that was the lovely editing.
Glossed over that rubbish.
Craig here, 1 goal from open play in the last 4 matches. Just they haven't scored since Boxing Day from open play. Well, 5 games if you include that friendly in Dubai. Dreadful stuff. Hashtag McInnes out.
Doesn't look good, does it, at the moment?
I have to
Derek
say,
McInnes was hurt, he said, after the game as well, by some of the chanting.
I think first and foremost on the team, they haven't been inspiring to watch. They have looked a little bit flat, a little bit laboured at times. But I just think Derek McInnes has been there, I think, 7 years. And I fully understand why he's hurt and why he's frustrated, because he's put so much into the club. He could have left on 2 or 3 different occasions. He loves his job. He talks about it, passionately about being at Aberdeen. So I think he deserves a little bit more respect than what's coming out. I understand being disappointed with your team's performance, but I think the singing and digging him out personally after what he's been through with the club, I just, it leaves a bitter taste in my mouth.
I wonder how long Dave Cormack will be on Twitter. Already got himself in trouble once, didn't he, after the Celtic game?
I think what it shows is just the difficulty with familiarity. Derek has done an unbelievably good job.
Is he doing a good job right now with this Aberdeen team?
This was just about to say. He's done an unbelievably good job, but there's no question that it's just regressing slightly. It's not alarming, but it is.
Enough to change, Michael, or not?
In terms of the style of football, and also they've gone from being clearly second best in the country, pushing Celtic. They're just drifting slightly. With this team now, I would expect, and this is where inevitably you're going to be under a bit of pressure being at one of the top clubs in the country. They need to start improving their performances, because I think they've now, the 2 players they've recruited in January should improve their team. McGeoch in terms of actually speeding up the play, the retention, possession, and Matty Kennedy in terms of a bit of creativity. And that's one of the big things when you watch Aberdeen. They've had a lack of pace in their team for a wee while. They've always had that in the wide areas, McGinn, Mackay-Stephen, Johnny Hayes, but also in the midfield in terms of their possession, getting the ball to the front players early. With those 2 signings, I would expect that they would be getting back to the style that they had 2 or 3 years ago. And if they don't, then Derek will come under a bit of pressure. But then it's a very big call and difficult.
We need to move on. But what you're saying is right now, no need for change, in your opinion?
No, not at all.
Or for me.
No.
Okay.
No chance.
All right. Maybe the campaign will go on. We'll see what happens. Yep. Some big games to come, including next weekend. Yep, Motherwell are not helping Aberdeen's cause, because they're doing so well this season, keeping that 3rd place. It was a draw for them at the weekend.
It was an amazing week for Motherwell. Obviously won at Pittodrie midweek. Draw at the weekend against Hibs, which isn't the worst result. Gaz here on Twitter, excellent performance, deserved more. Just lacking that cutting edge today. Compliment that teams are parking the bus at Fir Park. Overall, a good week's work. This one from David. Need an actual striker for when Manzinga isn't fit, and when Long isn't fit. Manzinga was good when he come on. And just very finally, Motherwood should look at Big Dykes at Livy. Boy scores goals.
I think they might have missed the boat to Lyndon Dykes. But in
Dykes.
Jolly's signed. They do have another striker.
He signed. Well, he can play off either side as well. When you took Chris Long didn't play on Saturday. Christy Manzinga isn't fully fit. And Jermaine Hilton didn't play. And I spoke to Stephen on Saturday night. I said to him, you look as if you lacked that little bit of cutting edge. James Scott played there. Christian Illich, who hasn't really reached top form, has missed a lot through injury. And young Ross McIver done quite well in the game. His hold-up play was good, and he ran in behind, and his link-up play, but they didn't look like scoring. That was the biggest thing. I think that's the hard bit. But it is a hard week. Up in Dundee, away to Aberdeen, and home to Hibs. I just thought the game lacked energy in general. Hibs as well. They looked as if they lacked energy. It's been a long week after the break, playing 3 games in such a short space of time.
The one on social media that kept popping up was Devante Cole. We've mentioned a wee bit, and I think they'll miss him.
I mean, listen, Devante wasn't a world-class player, but he did give a different dynamic to the team, and he did get himself a few important goals.
A few things to get through before we're finished. On to Hibs then. So I think their fans want more signings.
Yeah, I think the Hibs feeling on social media is that Jack Ross hasn't been able to put his kind of slant on the team yet. Kieran here, Jack Ross is doing a great job in my eyes. with that squad, because that squad are very poor. Boyle, Allen, Omiyonga are the exceptions. Jack Ross must be allowed to build his own team and make his own signings. And just very quickly, Ian, Jack Ross saying we need another 2 players in. Honestly, one of them is a defensive midfielder. It's I lost count of the number of times the Motherwell players waltzed through the middle of the pitch. Fingers crossed, Jack Ross recognises.
You were at the game. They've got a few defensive midfielders on the bench. Also, a link with Paul McGinn. Paul McGinn,
yeah. Well, because
would you like that? Not McGuinn.
McGuinn's better.
He's another player they're looking at.
Well, because Jason Naismith is now injured for the season. David Gray played midweek, wasn't involved on Saturday. So that would tell me that I think they need someone in that area. Jack's worked with him before at St Mirren, obviously liked what he had then. So it would make sense. He's an experienced Scottish Premiership defender. He knows how to play. He's good in ball. He can get up and down the line.
Looks like it might happen as well. Paul McGinn came on, didn't he?
Well, he came on the last minute yesterday, and I just wonder, was that Jim Goodwin just saying, go on, say cheer with the fans for a second time, because he's already left the club and came back again. So, but I certainly one to keep an eye on. I would think he would eventually end up there.
Could be 2 for 1. Could have McGinn and McGuinn.
McGuinn's one to watch as well. Apparently, you could get them both. On to Livingston. Big victory for them.
Huge, absolutely huge. And this one kind of sums it up. Stuart, 8 points clearing the top 6. What a time to be alive.
What a turnaround.
I think Craigs was saying it earlier. Is it one defeat in 10?
I think it's 1 defeat in 10.
Yeah. Which is pretty remarkable. And obviously Lyndon Dykes, we've talked to him a little bit in relation to going to other clubs. I think it's 11 goals in all competitions now.
It's not just his goals. He's all-round game. He's all-round game. He's been very impressive.
Well. They're absolutely flying.
And St Johnstone as well, with 3 points. Kilmarnock are reeling, but the Saints fans
massive
delighted.
One. St Johnstone 1884, did we need that? A deserved win for Saints with McCann and Witherspoon netting either side of a Burke penalty. A day where everyone played their part, like you say, Darrell. I think they really, really needed that one. And again, Craig, yes, much needed win.
We
Next
also
up, of course, Celtic.
We also think the eyes on Tommy Wright after Tommy's, press conference on Friday, just talking about the board and about the club, and everyone have been looking to think, Tommy, your players had better back it up today. So I think he first and foremost will have been a relief man. I don't think he's been happy for a while. I think there's been a few rumblings over the past couple of transfer windows about
can't
players,
afford to get rid of him,
how
though,
long
that's
it's taken to get players in and things.
They have to keep. They have to stick with them.
Do you mean financially or?
No, I mean because he's done such a good job for them.
Aye.
You lose Tommy Wright at the moment, goodness knows your season could unravel. So he can say what he wants. He probably feels. And next up for St Johnstone midweek, it's Celtic.
Not just asking questions. He's like making statements now.
Ladbrokes Social Club. If Tommy phoned that one in, actually, just he's in for a new contract again. And Rangers Ross County midweek. What are the odds?
Some odds for you. So Rangers Ross County, as you'd probably expect, Rangers big favourites. 1-9 on, 8-1 for the draw, 33-1 if you fancy a Ross County upset.
Ross County were good at Celtic Park, and the St Johnstone Celtic.
St Johnstone 10-1 at home to Celtic, 9-2 the draw, and 2-7 if you fancy Celtic win. Not much value as you imagine in Rangers and Celtic, but 33-1 for Ross County at Ibrox.
Big games playing at the same time as well on Wednesday night. I want to talk about your treble.
Yes.
Didn't go well again.
Do we have to, really?
No, yes, we do. We do.
Sadly. No, it didn't go well. Nah, I mean, so 2 teams. Actually, I saw the 2 teams that cost me. I took Rangers to win at Tynecastle, and I also took Aberdeen to win at St Mirren. So neither of which come in.
And just to really rub salt in the wounds, last week Alan Stubbs was on the show and he picked a treble and it won.
He just threw a treble, just like it was nothing. Like, I'll have they 3, and it came in. And it was very nice. Alan, very nice when he messaged me and said,
maybe it should be the Stubbsy treble now.
Maybe it should be now. Well, I tell you what, if he loses, he can do the forfeit. So about that.
Do you want to introduce your own forfeit?
Yeah. So this forfeit. So I should always say they never tell me what I'm doing. So basically, I was given a sandwich board and told to walk about a lovely part of Glasgow.
How many honks did you get?
Well, it was actually quite a Maralbuster, Darrell. A lot of them were like honks, but it was a bit like live Tinder. Like you saw them driving towards you and kind of weighing you up, like, am I going to honk here?
You just need to know any females. There was a couple of kind of older females in the car too, so maybe I just feel sorry.
That's alright, Craigs. That's alright.
I know, but for a young man like himself,
that's a bunch of workies. And that one honking.
Maybe their eyesight wasn't great. Like, what's that
what you're going
guy
with
doing? Out of the way! Oh no!
That's a young David Brent. Like, all I can say is, if anyone did honk, thanks very much. You made my day. That was lovely.
Honk?
And could you beep?
I know, honk. It's
honk if you're horny. I think it's the old slogan, isn't it? Is it not? It's alright, we're not on the telly, it's on social media. You can do what you want. Introduce your next treble. You're confident, aren't you?
So I've got another treble this week, and this one is definitely coming in. Here it is. Right, my first choice in this week's treble is Hibs to beat St Mirren at Easter Road. Hibs are actually unbeaten at home since September, and St Mirren have got one of the worst away records in the entire Ladbrokes Premiership. It's going to be a Hibs victory, stick it on. My second choice in this week's treble is Rangers to beat Aberdeen at Ibrox. Kind of speaks for itself. Rangers, the only loss to Celtic at home this season. Aberdeen really struggling at the minute. Derek McInnes under pressure. And of course, Rangers thrashed them 6-0 the last time the Dons visited Ibrox. That's another choice, you know it's coming in. My third and final choice in this week's treble is Hearts to beat St Johnstone at McDermott Park. Now, I know there's not many stats I can rhyme off here to predict a Hearts win, but Stendel's here now, the revolution is underway. They were brilliant against Rangers last week, and I think they're going to continue it in Perth. Get it stuck on. So, if you put those three bets together, they would have been 4-1, but the good guys at Ladbrokes have boosted it for you if you take this treble to 5-1. 5-1, you can't say fairer than that. You know it's coming in, if for no other reason, undue a victory. Back it.
A couple more bold selections there. What do you think, Michael?
It's coming in. It's definitely coming in.
Well,
It's 5-1 as well.
it's a big one.
Can I say fairer than
5
that?
to 1's pretty decent.
There's a fair chance. There's a fair chance.
I do think Hearts in Perth would be tricky, but I thought Hearts were really good yesterday, so I'm sticking,
That is a huge game.
I'm sticking by it.
Massive.
Yep.
In fact, a few big games at the weekend.
A few.
Should
Absolutely.
we make our game of the week Rangers v Aberdeen? Why not? It's a standout, isn't it, Stephen?
Well, it's a big one because Aberdeen fans aren't happy. Derek McInnes needs some sort of result. And I think what Derek has shown over the past few years, that when his side have been under the cosh, or he's been under the cosh as a manager, they've went and produced big results. So, I mean, none bigger than that for them. You know, going to Rangers and trying to get a win. And Steven Gerrard just needs to keep winning.
Got some morale back after the last time they met, of course. Second half comeback, Aberdeen.
Well, they did.
Played Rangers.
They did, and it's they had some good wins there last year. They won the Scottish
did.
Cup replay. I think they won the league as well. So, it's not a venue that will intimidate them, but the performance will need to improve than what it's been over the past few weeks.
Would you like to pick 3 just to see this week if yours comes
Just
in?
to rub salt into the wounds.
I'll go for Hibs to beat St Mirren, Rangers to beat Aberdeen, and Hearts to beat St Johnstone.
There you go, there you go.
That's pathetic.
Well, I'm going to go 3 draws. I'm going to go Kilmarnock.
3 draws?
Kilmarnock Ross County a draw. I'm going to go Livingston Motherwell a draw. And I'm going to go St Johnstone Hearts a draw.
Right.
Mine
That comes in.
was a joke, let's be honest.
I wonder
I
what
was
price
joking.
you'd get on that.
I'm going for Hibs to beat St Mirren. I'm going for Motherwell to beat Livy, and Rangers to beat Aberdeen.
It's a big shout, that. Motherwell, the way Livy are going as well at the moment. Right, on to Scots down south. Couple that were standing out at the weekend. Billy Gilmore, good to see him back in action for Chelsea in the FA Cup at Hull.
Second half appearance coming off the bench, and Frank Lampard, along with a lot of Chelsea fans on social media, kind of bigging him up, as we've kind of said before. Billy Gilmore here with a good substitution cameo, 17-18 passes completed, and the majority of the passes were progressive. Just 18 years old, his instinct to always look forwards, first to play the pass, even if he's under pressure, is impressive. Help quell the late Hull pressure. I know, honestly, I can
It's
feel
pure
I can
pressure
feel
now.
him over my shoulder.
Staring at that,
Yes.
Like I'm saying.
Look, he's progressing well,
Yeah.
clearly. He just needs more game time.
Well,
it's hard to get into the
I
Chelsea
like
team
that
at the
last little paragraph that when he receives the ball, the first thing he looks for is forward. Can he play a forward pass to let someone free to go make something happen? I know watching Motherwell against Hibs at the weekend, there was a lot of negative passes from midfield players at times, whereas you look at him, young man. I saw him playing at 15, 16 when he played in the under-20 league, and he was a standout then. He looked about 12, he was that small and young, but give him the ball, and he was quite happy to take it under pressure, as someone said, dominate the game. He's only going to get better, and the fact he's
Let's
getting
hope
game time with the top English Premier League team is terrific.
and be
for him.
praised by the manager.
And just quickly, maybe not to play, but in the Scotland squad.
The only issue is that it's an area of the park that we have
I know,
got so...
I know.
well,
Maybe,
it's the
maybe not
strongest
for the
area.
playoffs, maybe
Aye.
after, depending what happens.
Not to play, but
Aye. I mean, look, he's going to be there or thereabouts pretty soon, but it is an area of the park that we're so strong in.
Depends on McGinn, McTominay
Yeah,
and
of
others,
course,
if they're fit or not. Now, the other name that was trending, Cumdog.
Cumdog, the Ruud van Cumdog, as he's known to some, scoring a double against
performance.
the European and World Champions, no less. This was a good tweet. With win all the European Cups you want, you can't claim to be the best in the world if you allow Cumdog to score twice against you, which I think is a fair point. And this one, John McGinn and obviously Ollie McBurney, come on Cumdog, too easy Cumdog.
What you notice, though, is there's so many professionals that obviously really like him.
Absolutely, aye. Even saying his name, you just kind of smile, don't you?
I think what people forget though is, all the kind of razzmatazz round about him and the fun and the enjoyment. He's actually a decent player.
Yeah.
See if he jumps in, you just think to yourself, he could really knuckle down because he's a goal scorer. Somebody's always got that natural instinct to go and score goals. So, I mean, I thought he was good last night on the pitch, but his interview after as well was
It's brilliant,
terrific.
isn't it, to watch?
Absolutely, he was great.
He also said his
great.
right foot was his downfall in his career, which I thought was very open and honest. But he stuck away the second really well.
I mean,
What a character, Michael.
yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. I'm just thinking back to when he ended up going wrestling with
Grado.
Grado.
I watched it yesterday as well, and that's mental. I haven't actually watched it all, and I watched it all yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, he's a character. There's no doubt about it.
Widespread love for him.
Would you bet against them at Anfield maybe against a weakened Liverpool
Well, that's the
team?
thing. Do you
Well,
know
we
what?
probably would, but you probably wouldn't in part of your treble.
Hat-trick coming in.
Do you know what? Just briefly, we don't cover English football every single week anyway. But what do you think of Jurgen Klopp saying that he'll play the kids in this replay, and he won't even manage the team himself?
Again, that was probably an emotional statement from him after the game. I'd like to think that Jurgen Klopp would manage Liverpool in that game. Play the kids is fine. That's giving them experience. They need big games to try and show that they're ready to play for Liverpool. But I would hope that Jurgen Klopp would be on the bench that day.
There's
Real shame for the competition
I was
if
just
he
going to say,
doesn't.
there's a perception thing as well. He doesn't have to say that publicly.
No.
You know, if you even, if you're going to go and do that privately and allow others to take the team and everything like that, present it to the public as if you're doing it, because otherwise it definitely feels like you're taking the shine and the gloss off the
absolutely.
competition.
It does.
Yeah.
Right, should we finish with 1-2 free bet again?
1-2 free bet. Another betting game that I'm not very good at, Darrell.
No, neither am I in this one.
So
And
this
it's
is
free.
3 predict scores. If you get one correctly, you get £1 free bet. 2 a £5 free bet. £300 cash.
Should I give you the games?
So it's a play on words.
There you go. So I can see it. There you
It's
go.
like
There you go,
McGinn and
Michael.
McGuinn.
Ah, right,
Just like that.
Just like that.
Man United v Wolves, Burnley v Arsenal, Spurs v Man City. Tough ones to predict. Would you like to start us off? Man U v Wolves. Give us a score, please.
Where, at Old Trafford.
Yep, Man U v Wolves. Usually you put the home team first, Michael.
I wasn't listening, Darren.
Evidently.
It happens a lot when you're talking. A draw.
Okay, what's the score you're trying to predict? It's special.
Guess. It's a guessing game.
Yeah, I'm throwing it back to you.
All right, I'll put one all out there for you.
Well, I was going to go 1-1. I'd went 1-1 that game, yes.
This has gone well. Burnley v Arsenal.
Whereabouts?
Turf Moor.
All right, okay.
2-0 Arsenal.
Okay.
2-1 Arsenal.
Well, should we edit these pauses out later? It's taking forever here. Spurs against Man City.
At the $1 billion stadium.
Yes.
Right. 2-0 to City.
3-0 Man City.
We're out of time.
Absolutely. That's available in store and on the Ladbrokes app. And if you want to get in touch, hashtag Ladbrokes Social Club.
Hashtag Ladbrokes Social
That's it.
Club. That's what it's all about. Guys, thank
Hashtag
you very much.
Paul McGuinn.
Hashtag Paul McGuinn for him. All the best. See you next week.